Good evening, sir. Good afternoon. Sorry. I have made you co-host. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I can hear you now. Sorry.
I've made you co-host. I may have to step out in the middle of the something so
Okay,
that
sir.
you can administer and end the session. I've started recording already.
All right, sir.
Thank you. Where is that?
Hello?
Checking where the whereabouts of Antonia.
I dropped a message for her, but it's like she's offline. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome you again to today's session. We're just waiting to see if a couple more guys would join us. Then we would start. So I'm kindly patient with us. Apologies again for keeping you waiting. Let's see in another 5 minutes if more persons would join. Then we can start. Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, so we're starting now. I'll just share a word of prayer, and then we move on from there. In Jesus' name, Father, we thank you for today. Thank you for your goodness and mercy. Thank you for your loving kindness. We thank you for your grace. And then, Father, as we gathered here today to discuss around this topic of interviews and getting the jobs of our desires. But we ask for wisdom, we ask for utterance, we ask, Lord God, that you guide this discussion, Lord. The impact will be made today and grace will be transferred in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Father, for in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so for those of us who are here in the first class, I would just, or for those of us who are not here in the first class, I would just do another brief introduction of NPM. NPM stands for Network of Professionals for Missions, and then you'd be wondering what business does missions have to do with things related to career stuff. Well, you should not just focus on the missions, you should also focus on the professionals. We are a network or a collection of professionals who have a passion for missions. And we believe that for us to be good workplace evangelists, we also have to be excellent at what we do. In other words, the gospel that we preach, it's not just for the soul alone, it's also for the body, it's for the mind, it's for the soul, it's for the body. And the power of that gospel that transforms a man's dead spirit into a living spirit can also vitalize our mortal bodies, as and Paul said, vitalize our mortal body. In other words, it can also have physical impact in the sense of impacting on our career and everything related to our career, in such that we are not just lively spirits that have been transformed from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. We are also, that's the power of that transformation. The transforming power of the gospel is also felt in our career. We are also excellent in our career, such that you become a respected colleague, you become a go-to person in your office, because everybody knows that you are good at what you do. I mean, you are excellent. People admire you. People come to you to ask questions and to help and resolve issues. So you become an attractive person, such that you can now use that influence. You can now use that influence to minister the gospel, because people then easily want to listen to you, you know, because you already have influence, and you're already somebody that anybody wants to listen to and anybody wants to be like. So that's the purpose of all this. The purpose of all this is such that just help Christian professionals get the right equipping, so that they're not just spirits that have come alive and people, Christians that know God, but they're also excellent at what they do, and the God that they serve and the faith that we profess is reflected in our work and at our workplaces. So we are privileged to have the founder of this ministry in our midst today, Mr. Anasami. He's here. Can we just appreciate him, appreciate the grace of God on his life? I mean, because he decided to obey God, and that's why we are all here. So we really appreciate him for putting this together. So I wouldn't want to take much of our time, because my time is already fast spent. Just want to dive into what we are here for today. So our mentoring session, this is the second semester, and the primary focus of this semester it's focused on young graduates or professionals that are just starting their career, Christian professionals that are just starting their career. So, like I've said before, the purpose is to help give us the right, bring the right information to us and equip us so that we're able to make better career decisions and be able to make better, more informed and intelligent career decisions. And the aspect I'll be looking at today is how to ace an interview, how to ace an interview. I want to mention this, and it is that because of the way things are in Nigeria, most of us start off our career probably on a career path that we did not plan. We did not plan for. And the truth is that it doesn't even start from when you start looking for a job. It starts the dysfunctional nature of things, this dysfunctional nature of the labor market in Nigeria. It starts affecting you even when you are trying to get into school. You see people going for courses that ordinarily they wouldn't go for, or people going for specific courses that they wouldn't ordinarily go for because it has better career prospect. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But there's also a place for you to know what you're going into and to know, look down the line and look into the future. The goal should not just be to get into school. I know probably all of us here, I mean, we've passed that stage, but I'm just trying to take us back a bit where I think it starts getting wrong. And it is when we're about to get into school, or when we get into school because we just want to get into school, and we just pick up any course and we start off like that. I mean, somewhere down the line, you begin to see the impact of that, and it is good at this point, even if we can't catch it at the point of you getting into school, we should be able to catch it here, or catch you here, and then see how we can better help you along your career paths to make better career decisions. I would just introduce myself, and hopefully I would like to hear from us, and also I would like us to also introduce ourselves. If you can we see my screen? Sorry, I doubt. Sorry, I wasn't moving the screen. Can you guys see my screen too? Hello?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, can you see my profile now? Just want to be sure that. Can you guys see my profile now?
Yes, we can, but it's not on presentation mode, sir. You can just help us put it on presentation mode.
That wasn't.
Okay.
How about now?
Maybe you didn't share your entire screen. Maybe you just shared the file. Maybe you want to reshare. It's still not on presentation mode.
Interesting. My thoughts. So I'm just trying to fix that. Is it better now? Hello?
We can continue, sir. Continue.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm still trying to. Okay. Don't know what's wrong. We just continue. So my name is Emmanuel Ekoh. Sorry, I'm just introducing my name. My name is Emmanuel Ekoh. I started my career with Deloitte Nigeria so many years ago, and I started off in Deloitte as an audit associate in the financial services industry. I continued my career along that path for a while until I left Deloitte briefly for Landmark Africa, and I was there for a couple of months, and I stayed there for a couple of months, and I came back to Deloitte. And after spending another 1 year with Deloitte, at that point I was an assistant manager. And one of my roles as an assistant manager, aside from the fact that I had to lead some of the biggest audit clients, in Deloitte FSI then, one of my roles was also to interview prospects. And most of the persons I interviewed, that because of my level I was then, they were new entry-level applicants. And for me to be able to do that job properly, I was trained by Deloitte and given the skills to be able to interview people and identify talent that fits the Deloitte DNA. I think that's lingo used. Talents that fits the Deloitte DNA, so that they can we can bring them in, right? So I did that for another year before I left Deloitte Nigeria. And I moved over to Deloitte. Deloitte Guernsey. Guernsey is in Channel Islands. Channel Islands is in the British those islands. It's a financial hub. It's like a free trade zone, but basically for finance businesses. We have a lot of finance businesses here. So I was at Deloitte Guernsey for 2 years. During that 2 years, I didn't really do anything related to recruitment. I wasn't a part of that, but I left Deloitte Guernsey November 2021, and I joined BDO Guernsey as a manager. While I Deloitte Guernsey, I was an AM, an assistant manager. So I didn't really do anything related to recruitment. But I joined BDO Guernsey as a manager in November 21, and because of where I sit and the fact that I'm a manager, so I had to get involved in recruitment again. So I've been doing that for the past year and all since I've been with Deloitte. BDO Guernsey. I've been a part of the recruitment process, and not just recruiting entry level applicants. I've been privileged to interview more senior persons, and so I've not just been on the side of interviewing people. I've also been on the other side of being interviewed, especially when I was planning to leave Nigeria for the UK. I did a couple of interviews, international interviews, and even locally in Nigeria, I also did a couple of interviews, but none of them was, apart from joining Landmark Africa, none of the other ones worked, and I was happy that those ones worked. But the point is that I've had experience on both sides. Even, last 2 weeks I had an interview again. I went for an interview because I was just looking at to see what's in the market over here. And yesterday I interviewed somebody. So something I do pretty regularly on both sides. And so it would be good to really listen to what I have to say within a short time I have. I would really like to hear from us to get to know people on this call, so that if my slides are not properly tailored for this session, I can just probably speak from my heart. We have how many participants currently? Can't see everybody, but we're just happy for us to introduce ourselves briefly, just to have an idea of who we are and where we are in our career. So I would like to start with apologies if I don't call your name properly. I don't call it with the proper designation, but I'll just call your first name, please. Forgive me if that is disrespect, but please forgive me. Abayomi, please can you just do a brief introduction of yourself and what you do, where you are in your career, or where you're working currently, and what you seek to.
Abayomi is our second facilitator.
Sorry.
but go ahead, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You can still go ahead now. You can still go ahead.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thanks, sir. We're happy to hear from you, sir.
Okay. I don't need to share my screen, do I?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Fantastic introduction, Emmanuel. Thanks a lot. If it's even true, Manuel and Emmanuel. So the other Emmanuel is the person I've had the privilege of working with across 2 companies now.
Okay.
I started my career with MTN, then moved to KPMG, then moved to Anderson. I'm now with a private equity firm, Africa Plus Partners, also based in Ekoh. So I'm the group head of human resources for the company. And as Emmanuel said, I'm also a co-facilitator, and I think I am going to be here taking people through, just a very quick session on CV and how to put together a winning CV. I think, I think I can stop there for now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank God we have a HR professional here. No, I'm not really HR professional. So if I say anything that is wrong, sir, you have the right to correct me. Int'l, please, can you just give a brief introduction of yourself?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, sir. My name is Int'l Akilade. Yes, I'm a banker. Yes, I'm a banker. 1 year on the job.
Okay.
And I think that's. Thanks,
all right.
sir.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Antonia, I know you, but I would just like to hear from you. You can do a brief introduction of yourself. Antonia, are you able to speak? Okay, move on to Alice. Alice, are you able to speak? Are you able to introduce yourself? Brief introduction.
Hello.
Hi.
Akishino Oluwabusola Alex by name. I'm a business personnel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to have you here. Ofuya, are you able to introduce yourself, give a brief introduction of yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I'm currently an entry-level staff with one of the indigenous oil and gas firms. Started my career as a graduate intern with WPS, the consultancy firm, but more into health safety and environmental practice. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for introducing yourself. I'll just get right into it because my time is fast spent. Again, the central theme of this mentoring session is getting started with your career, and today we are looking at how to ace an interview, the ABC of acing an interview. And I prepared a slide just to speak around. The slide speaks around what you do before you go for an interview, what you do during an interview, the likely questions you may be asked, and how to answer those questions. I hope I just have time to run through those questions because I have a lot of them here, and what you do and what are things you do during the interview. So basically, these questions would not cover the technical bit of an interview, because the interviews are in most cases when you are going for an entry level or a mid level, even for some senior level, but especially for entry level and mid level kind of positions, which I believe the people here fall within that category. These are the kind of interviews are usually organized into three parts. The first part, you have the introductory part where you introduce yourself and interviewers introduce themselves and the company, while you get to also introduce yourself, and they ask you a bit of questions, a question around they ask a question about yourself, what you've been doing, some questions around your CV and all that. Just get to know a bit more about you. Things like notice period. Some persons might ask that salary expectation, but that can also come at the end. But just if the introductory part, right? So, and the purpose of that introductory part is just to get you settled in, so that you are comfortable. And for some interviewers, I mean, they'll be chatting with you, not play with you in that sense, but chat. I mean, a properly trained interviewer would want to use that introductory bit or that introductory part to get you settled. And now, I know my guy is here.
If you are moving your screen,
no, I'm not moving it.
Okay,
I'm not moving it. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I know my guy is here. He's a HR professional, but he should permit me to say some things. I have interviewed people in Nigeria a lot. I've done that a lot, and I've also gone for interviews a lot in Nigeria. And I discovered that through those times, right? And some of those times were not really pleasant for me because I really needed to leave Deloitte at that point. Okay, so let me just give a background to that. Because I was an accountant and I needed to qualify at a particular time, so that was not happening. I was in breach of the firm policy, so I had to leave. So I was going for a lot of interviews. Thank God for God's grace, I didn't eventually leave. I was put on contract. I didn't leave that way. I was put on contract. I decided to leave on my own. Nobody kicked me out. I decided to leave on my own. But at that point in time, I was a bit agitated. So I was going for a lot of interviews. And around that time, I began to really understand things. That, first of all, because there's a high demand puts a company who has openings for jobs, put that company in a place of immense power, because the truth is that jobs are limited, supply is almost unlimited. So that's why interviews in Nigeria are a bit different from interviews abroad. But I would just like to focus on Nigeria because a good number of us are here, and try and also speak a bit about interviews abroad, because I also understand at some point some of us might be looking towards that direction. But one thing I discovered in all that process, even when I also went through trainings on how to conduct interviews, I discovered that most of the interviews I've attended, let me not overgeneralize, most of the interviews I've attended, you discover that people are not properly trained to even conduct interviews. People are not properly trained to conduct. The fact that you're in a senior position in a company does not mean that you have the right skills to interview people or to even identify who is the best fit for a particular role. But let's leave all that. I'm just trying to say that so that when you go for an interview and things does not turn out the way you desire, it's not always because you did not prepare properly, but sometimes it's because the people who are on the other side interviewing you are not even properly trained to do. You hear funny questions and the way interviewers treat prospective applicants and prospective staff. You see the way they treat people and the kind of questions they ask. Man, I mean, I don't want to dwell so much on that. Let's just get right into it. But I'm just trying to let you understand that, these are the realities. But by the grace of God, I mean, we can properly equip ourselves and with the grace of God to get the jobs with the jobs we desire for the career path we've chosen. So I'll just take us through a couple of questions, likely questions. Now, like I said, the technical part of an interview, which would be questions that are related to the job description. I mean, the technical skills you need to do that job. I won't even dwell on that because it is specific to a job, it's specific to a career path. So I can't touch that, but I'll just touch on the ones that are more generic in nature and which are most likely to encounter, and how to answer those questions. So like I said, interviews are basically split into three parts. You have the introductory bit, you have the the core of the interview, which would that's where you get your technical questions and some other question. Then you have the third part, which is the competence, where you get the competence question. The competence questions are a bit different from the technical part of the interview, but you have the introductory, the proper interview where you have your technical question and competency question, and you have the ending part of the interview where you ask to be more, well, not questions directly related to the role, but things like for some interviews, that's where you get to be asked about sometimes your professional qualifications, some other time your notice period, some other time salary expectation and all that. So that's where you ask all those questions, and then you also have an opportunity to also ask your questions at that point in time. So let's just look at some questions. Can everybody see my screen? I've changed it. Can we see it? Hello?
Yeah, I can. Well, it hasn't changed to your profile is still what I'm seeing right now. At least for my own.
Change it here. I don't know why this thing is behaving like this. So it's still not showing.
I don't know, maybe you can pull it down and present. Maybe that will fix it. I don't know. Stop sharing and then we share again.
Okay, let me do that. This is better. Is this better?
Yeah, presentation. I mean, your profile is there, but your presentation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Quickly, I'll just run through this quickly because I've really taken time. So before you go for an interview, what are the things you need to do? This is very, 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 very important. What are the things you need to do before you go for an interview? As simple as they may sound, excuse me, but they are very important that you do these things because one thing that makes people fail in interviews is not that they don't know what to say, but because they're not properly prepared for the interview. So it's good for you to properly prepare for an interview. You might not be able to guess all the questions you'll be asked, but it's good that you go into the interview confident that at least you have tried to check all you're supposed to check or know what at least you can know, what is knowable, what is possible for you to know at that point in time. And confidence is very key. One way you build your confidence into an interview is to make sure that you've done proper research and you prepared yourself properly. So what are the things you can do before you go for an interview? Read the job description and the person specification. Sometimes we don't do this. We just go for an interview and we don't spend time to read the job descriptions. And again, you can go for an interview and nobody asks you anything about the job description. As for other interviews, if you're unlucky, somebody will ask you questions around the job description, ask if you read the job descriptions and what do you think about the job description? What can you tell them about the job description? And that's where it begins to get really messy. If you've not read the job description and you're just going to the interview, then they ask you talk about the job description, you can't say anything. I mean, that's already automatically you failed the interview if you can't talk about the job description. So I mean, so why are you here? Why do you think you're the best fit for the job if you do not even know what they are looking for or the person they are looking for and the skills they are looking for? Then you shouldn't even come for the interview. So it's very, very, very important for you to look at the job description and the kind of person they are looking for, the skills they are looking for. I mean, I've gone for interviews, people show up just because they are hoping that even if they are not qualified for the interview, they are just hoping that, okay, somehow, they will scale through. But I mean, when job opportunities are put out there for serious companies, they are looking for specific persons with specific skills, and that is what you see in the job description. So please read the job description. If you are lucky enough to be interviewed for, invited for interview, please read the job description. And it's another reason why it's important is that when you start answering questions, take for instance, when they ask you a question like introduce yourself, that is the point where you can, that question is supposed to be a point where you sell yourself. And one way you sell yourself at that point is when what you say speaks to the job description. I'll come to that, but probably I just have to say that now. I don't have to repeat myself again. One of the first questions you're asked is for you to introduce yourself, but the mistake most people make is to start telling the interviewer what's in their CV, talking about educational qualification, talk about where you've worked, talk about the kind of job you've done and all that. See, that is not required. That's not necessary. What you're supposed to do at that point is where you sell yourself. And one way to effectively sell yourself to the interviewers is to tell them about your skills, the things you've done where you've worked, the skills you've acquired, what you've achieved where you've worked before, and convince them that, see, this is the job description, this is the kind of person you are looking for, and I believe I'm the person who is best fit to fill this role. That is what's required at that stage. Don't bother talking about your job history. No, it's not. Don't bother. It's just the point for you to sell yourself. Well, if talking about your job history will help you sell yourself, that's fine. But it's not necessary because all that is already on your CV, and a serious interviewer would have read your CV before they even interview, or before they are invited into the room. They must have read your CV. A good interviewer would have read your CV to be sure that, okay, this person, I want to know this person from the person's CV. I also want to be sure that there's no gaps in the person's CV. So when you're asked that question, introduce yourself, it's a good point for you to sell yourself and convince the interviewers that you're the best person for that job. And how do you do that? You start speaking from the job description that, okay, this kind of person you are, this kind of person you're looking for. I've read the job description, this is what you're looking for. And based on the jobs I've done and the skills I've gathered over the years and the place I've worked, I believe I'm the best person fit for this role. Second question, research the company. Or second point, research the company. Also very, 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 very important. You need to research the company. You need to research the owners of the company. You need to research what the company does. You need to, if possible, sometimes when you're sent an interview invite, you see that sometimes they copy the interviewers. Sometimes you're lucky they copy interview. I've gone for interview, they copy the interviewers. So they send one mail to everybody, both to the interviewer and the interviewee. So what I do, I go to LinkedIn and research the person. Just check the career history of the person. It helps a lot. It helps to, at least you already have an idea of the person you are going to meet. And if possible, if you have anybody who has worked there, pick up a phone, talk to the person and say, oh, what do you know about this person? People have called me up and say, well, I'm coming for an interview in your company. I'll ask them, okay, who is interviewing you? And they say, oh, is this person? I say, oh, this guy is a nice person. Just be relaxed. He's a nice person. So that time I say, oh no, this guy, well, this guy is tough. So you have to be careful. It's very important you research the company, research the people. It's also important for you to research a company because you don't want to go and work in a place where your faith, you get to a point where your faith might be compromised, or you are maybe required to compromise your faith. You research the company and you see what they do. You see the stories about them on the internet or on the public space. They're not too good stories, please. It's not too late to withdraw. You can withdraw. This is very important because for me, I've been lucky to work in places where character is very, very important. As an accountant, it's assumed that you have good character, you are honest, you won't change figures and all that. So I worked in that environment, but I've also heard unpleasant stories regards to people who have worked in other places because the culture there is just bad. It encourages dishonesty, and you don't want to be in that kind of place if you're a Christian, except God has said this is the place He wants you to go to. So that's one reason why you don't just go to any company. If the culture is bad, please stay away, because you don't want to work in a toxic environment. So it's also for the sake of your own faith and your own mental health. It's good to research the company before you go. Plan your end of interview questions. It's also encouraged that you ask questions at interview because it's one way for you to demonstrate that you've done research and you're interested in a company. Because you're interested in a company, you've done your research and you know things about the company and you're really interested about the company. So you ask questions that reflect the fact that, okay, you've done your homework and you know stuff about the company, you know where the company is going. And probably through that question, you might even share ideas. I remember I went for an interview at Landmark. And when I was at the last stage, I had to meet with the CEO of Landmark. Very, very nice guy, business-oriented guy. I had to meet the CEO of Landmark. And for those of us who know Landmark, it's at Oniru, but it is close to Eco Atlantic. So they have this beach. So if you know the plan of Eco Atlantic, you notice that the plan of Eco Atlantic is that they will sandfill all that place, even where Landmark is. That beach that Landmark has access to. The plan initially, I don't know if that's still the plan now. The plan was to sandfill all that place, so Landmark wouldn't have access to the beach anymore. And you know that if you've been to Landmark recently, you know that they've done. So I've not been there, but I follow what they do. They do a lot. They've built a lot of recreational activity along that beach. So when I was talking to the CF and the CEO, and he was interviewing me, and he asked me to ask a question. And the question I asked him was, okay, I understand that this is the plan for Eco Atlantic, right? And there's a high likelihood that it will sandfill that place. So what is the plan? Is located close to a high value property. It's also going to be because it's also going to impact on the valuation or the value of the property that Landmark holds. So even if they lose the beach, but because they are close to Eco Atlantic, they can almost sell their properties or sell because they also intend to build residential buildings. So they can sell those things at the rate at which you buy property in Eco Atlantic. So it shows that you research the company. I mean, you're interested in the future of the company, you know what the company is doing. And we'll look at those at the end. So let me not talk too much about that, but it's good for you to prepare questions you want to ask at the end of an interview. And this question should be based on research that you've done. Don't just ask frivolous or anyhow question, or just be interested on when they will get back to you. You can ask that, but not only be interested in when they will get back to you, how much they pay us. I mean, well, it's not even wise to go and be asking them how much they pay us salary and all that. But let's move on. Dress to impress, dress properly. I mean, I don't know if I have time to say a lot of stories. My first interview when I was about to join Deloitte, I think was it the first or the second stage? It was the first stage. I was in Lagos then, but I was living in Benin, so I came to stay in a friend's place in Lagos around them, Agege. Yeah, it was close to Agege or so, if I remember correctly. And I came with a trouser and a white shirt. I didn't have a suit. No, I had a suit, but I didn't come with it. So the day before the interview, I just felt I should call my friend who was in Abuja. I was like, I'm going for an interview tomorrow. Do you think it's okay for me to go with a shirt and trousers? I said, no, I should not do that. I should dress properly. I should go and get a suit if I have the money. And luckily for me, I had money. I had some money with me. I just finished service then. I had a lot of money with me. So I went to Agege. I got a good suit. And I went for the interview. And I thank God that I caught that guy, because everybody that came for that interview were on suits. I mean, it would just be odd for me to go for an interview and I'm just wearing a white shirt and trouser. But that was that time. That was like over 10 years ago now. Where I was, and Deloitte then was very strict in terms of dress. The way you dress, Deloitte was very, very strict. You have to be on tie, you have to be on your suit, you have to be clean, you need a clean shave and all that. So it was just perfect for me to have gone there properly dressed. So please, so this does not always doesn't always hold everywhere you go. It depends on where you are going to interview. Research when you research the place properly, but it's good to always dress to impress. Even if you are dressed, it's better than you underdress. Research properly, know how they dress there, but don't go there dressing shabbily. Even if you're not wearing a tie, try and wear a clean suit and a shirt, even if you don't want to wear a tie, because probably that place they don't probably say a manufacturing company. You don't have to wear a suit and all that, but just try and dress properly and dress to impress. Check out the location. This is also always very good. Don't assume that this place is closed. I know this place. Double check. Place like Lagos, traffic. You need to be careful about that. So I mean, these are things I can't overemphasize. Avoid if you smoke. Well, I don't know if anybody smokes here, but if you do that, please don't do those things that put off people easily. Things like smoking. Yeah, I mean, especially in a place like Nigeria that is conservative, don't do all those things. Don't wear excessive makeup. Yeah, I might say those things are not very important, but I mean, look at the environment where you are and please try and blend into the environment. Okay, I've talked about who you're meeting with, so I won't say so much about that. I've gone for an interview. I'm sorry, I've interviewed somebody, I think when Dele was recruiting before I left Nigeria. We're recruiting a lot because a lot of people were leaving. And there's this guy that came for an interview. The guy was just dressed in a shirt and trouser, a colored shirt actually, not a white shirt. I mean, if you had just worn a white shirt, I won't be so much. I didn't even take it as an issue. It was the other guy who was interviewing the guy with me that made it an issue. The guy was dressed in a colored shirt. He folded his sleeve. You're like, at the end of the interview, like, bro, why did you come like this? Why didn't you try and dress up? He said he was just coming from somewhere, so he just decided to come for an interview. I mean, you just tell me that you're not serious. Yes, I know there are times where, but you have to prepare for an interview. Don't do it as if I mean, I don't care, let me just go. If you create the impression that, oh, I just want to be there and I just want to show up, so I can show up anyhow I like, well, I doubt if you get that job. So the guy was not even, the guy didn't even progress to the next stage. Then that's the story. But let's move on. So please dress properly, dress to impress. Manners and etiquette. There's a lot to talk about here, but I mean, don't cut short your interviewer. Don't when especially back. I mean, especially in a place like I don't want to keep saying a place like Nigeria, but especially when you're interviewing back home in Nigeria, when you're interviewing in Nigeria, a lot of things you could do that could put off an interviewer. And the reason is because it might not be because what you've done is bad. It's just because the way interviewers sit, especially in Nigeria, where there's low supply of jobs and high supply of people who are looking for jobs. You just have to be careful the things you do, because there's 1,001 people who are ready to replace you. So the interviewer is ready to throw you out at any minute. So you just have to be extra to be polite. And don't talk too much. Don't talk too little. Like I said, don't wear excessive makeup. Just be careful before you shake, because sometimes some people may not shake, especially if it's a lady and a Muslim. Even some Muslim men will not even shake a lady. So just be careful. That's why it's also good to research who is going to interview. If you can get those information, please. At some other times, you're encouraged to shake properly. Shake. There's a way you shake people. Don't shake and hold their hand. You might be saying it might be interpreted wrongly. So these things are things you should be careful about when you are being interviewed. Try not to. Well, anyway, I've seen that in real life, but not in Nigeria, where somebody was trying to read something somewhere, especially where it's a virtual interview. You see people trying to play tricks, but you can see those things that this person is reading something, is looking at something. It's not very good when you are being interviewed and it appears you are looking at something, you are reading something. I mean, that's dishonesty. Try to be honest as possible. Honesty is the best, but if you don't know the question to an answer, if you don't know the answer to a question, say you don't know it. I mean, say it confidently and politely. Say, I don't know the answer to this question. I'll probably give reasons if there are reasons for you to give. Take for instance, I don't have experience in this area, but what you could do is to say, okay, yes, I don't have experience in this area, but I can answer your question hypothetically. Especially when it comes to the behavioral part, where they ask you scenario-based questions, say like, can you describe a situation in the past where you had to give negative feedback to somebody, but you've not done that before. Let's assume you've not done that. You don't try to forge something or formulate something in your head. Just first of all say, see, I've not had this experience, but this is what I think should be done. Try to be honest. Do not slouch. I referred somebody recently for an interview, and so because I referred him, I mean, I wasn't the one who interviewed him. Another guy interviewed him, who is a Nigerian, with another of my senior colleague who is a Caucasian. And I went back to ask my he's a fellow manager. I went to ask him, like, how did that guy do? He was like, man, the guy was behaving as if he had somewhere he wanted to go to, so he wanted to quickly wrap up the interview. So the guy's clothes were rumpled, where the guy was sitting was dark, they couldn't hear him clearly. So I just wanted to summarize this place. There's a lot of things that could just put people off, even if probably what you're saying makes sense. It could just put people off. Because at the end of the day, the interviews sometimes, and the truth is that interview should not be about whether you get questions right or wrong. Interview should be a test of your ability. First of all, a test of your technical ability, fine. So you test the test of your intelligence, that's true. But it's also be a test of how you present yourself. Is this person a reasonable person? Is this person a person who can follow through with instruction? Is this person a person who can follow through with rules? Is this person a person who can communicate with clients, even if he faced some question? Is this person intelligent enough to follow processes when we say follow this process to do A, B, and C? You mean, you don't have to get all the answers in an interview. But there are other things that are considered, like, are you able to follow instructions? Are you a smart person? Do you communicate clearly? Are you an intelligent person? Are you a honest person? Put all those factors together. You discover that you may only get 50% of the answers, but you still be called in and given an offer, because they've seen that, okay, even if he didn't know some of these questions, his presentation was good. He communicates clearly. I interviewed a lady recently. All I could focus on was her communication. Her communication was just excellent. I didn't care whether she was getting answers wrong or right, but her communication was just excellent. And that alone for me was a reason for me to move out to the next level. But let's move on. So I will just run through these questions briefly. But these are some of the questions where people fail it. Tell me about yourself. People start talking about their CV and their work history. No, please don't do that. What you have to do at this point is sell yourself. And in doing that, you should know your job description, what they are looking for, the skills they are looking for, the kind of persons they are looking for, the level of exposure they are looking for. I mean, so once you know that, and that is, you know that by looking at job description they sent you. Once you know that, at this point, you need to speak to that, to speak to who and what they are looking for, the kind of skills they are looking for. You introduce yourself and say, this is who I am, this is where I've worked, these are the skills I've been able to gather, these are the things I've achieved. And because of all this, I believe this is the kind of person you guys are looking for. And because of all this, because of all this, because of the skills I've achieved, the skills I've been able to get, the things I've achieved in my career and where I've gotten to my career, I believe I'm the best fit for this role. I don't have enough time. I could just my plan initially was to probably have a discussion, probably ask somebody to volunteer and to answer some of these questions while I try to correct some of these, but there's no time. But let's move on. But that is what a well-trained interviewer is expected to hear when he asks you the question. Can you tell me a little about yourself? Let's move on. What can you tell us about the company? Sometimes you'll be asked this question, some other times you may not be asked this question. What I've seen is that where I've done interviews in Nigeria, it's likely you ask this question, but if you are doing interviews abroad, they don't really ask you this question. What they do, they actually tell you about the company. They don't ask you what you know. They don't dwell so much on what you know about the company. They just want to check if you've done your research, but they also put in a lot of effort to tell you about it, because interviews for them, it's not about you just selling yourself to the company. It's also about them selling the company to you. Because it's both ways. I mean, especially in a developed market where the supply of labor is not that, I mean, it's almost at par with the demand for the supply of jobs, because people are not really interested in like doing our kind of job. Like I'm an accountant, I'm an auditor. People are not really interested in doing it. So when we interview people, we also try to sell the company to people so that they kind of pick interest in it. But that's another matter. Well, let's look at Nigeria, where it's a different case. You are most likely to be asked this question. It's good for you to do proper research. Why do you want to leave your current? Another place where people fail. A good way to answer this question is simply, probably you want to do something more interesting. It's a part of your, another way to answer this question is to say it's a part of your career plan to move into this place at some point in time. Another way to answer this question is say, you want to do something more interesting, you feel you've achieved what you want to achieve in this former place you're working, and just want to move to a new place, or move to a new career, or move to a new employer, because there are certain things you want to achieve, maybe new skills, new working in new environment, new exposure. But the golden rule here is that don't badmouth your former employer. Don't badmouth. Even if the employer is bad, don't badmouth. Better not to say anything about them, right? Than to ask you this question and start badmouthing the employer. See, they'll just say, okay, this guy, if we allow him come in, when he's leaving, he'll go and badmouth us to the next employer. So let's just, there's no need for us to bring this guy. Another wrong impression you don't want to create when asked this question is to create an impression that you're somebody who moves up and down. You're not loyal. You have to create the impression that you're loyal. And that loyalty will come in somewhere down the line again. I think there's another question where you have to demonstrate that, but please don't badmouth your former employer. Talk about the good things they do. Don't talk about the bad things they have done to you or whatever. Just talk about the good things about the place and move on. Don't badmouth them. What are your main responsibilities in your current role? I want to do a mantra that you know what you do. Try and talk about it. I mean, it's really be appalling if you cannot describe the role you currently perform, especially when you put that in your CV and what you are saying is different. And the answer you are giving is different from what you put on your CV. So please make sure that what you are saying is the same as what you put on your CV as your roles and responsibilities. What are your key strengths? And that place where people mess up. What are your key strengths? People can. It's amazing that when they ask you this question, you just be shocked that you can't give an answer, or you'll be giving answers that are not. How would I put it now? That are not very. Sorry, let me use this word. Are not very intelligent. Because most times we don't sit down to think about this and what our strengths. And that's why it's good for you to prepare for an interview, so that when you're asked this kind of question, you know what to say. Please don't say things like you know how to work under pressure. Don't say things like you are a team player. Yeah, those are the normal phrases we use, yes. But those phrases, sincerely, if you look at it, they don't, everybody says it so that it has lost its meaning. Even for you to even say you can work under pressure, it's not a very good testimony, sincerely. But there are better ways to put it. Take, for instance, I'm a collaborator. I'm flexible. I'm a collaborator means that you can work with your team and work with other teams in an organization. I'm flexible means that I work within the time my job requires me to work. And if it requires me to work extra time, I can also put in that extra time. Sorry, I think I mixed this up. What are your strengths? Sorry. Yeah. So I think I'm on the right path. Yeah. Don't be saying things like I'm a team player. I'm punctual. I see there are some truths that are things that are basic that are expected of you, especially if you're in a certain career path or you've attained a certain level of your career. You should talk about things like probably things like you like coaching and bringing up people. You like making sure that people you work with become better. You like to bring quality to your work. You're a collaborator. That means you can go further to explain that you like to work with your team and to work with other teams in the organization. You're not just somebody who stays in their unit. You like to explore and understand what is happening in other parts of the business. You are flexible. You can work within the standard hours and put in extra hours where it's required. You are commercially aware. Commercially aware means that even if you are not a front-end staff, even if you are front-end staff in the sense of you are not in the revenue generating part of the business, even if you're at the back end, but you understand how the role you play contributes to the bottom line of the business. Even if your job is to be carrying file from one office to another, or to be serving people tea, but you understand how that is important to the working of the company and to the and how that contributes to the bottom line of the business. So I will share resources that will help expand these things more, so that I don't talk too much and we are not able to cover everything. Weakness is another where some people say they don't have weakness. Please don't say that. Don't say you don't have weakness. Everybody has weakness. But when you are giving your answer around this, try and say something that is not against. It's not against the job description. It's not against the skills you are looking for. Take for instance, you are going for an accounting run. You say you don't know how to use Excel. You've cancelled yourself. You cancelled yourself already. You failed yourself already. You don't know how to, so don't say things like that. I'm not saying you should lie, but look at all your weaknesses and see the one that's better suits this question. Take for instance, I could say for me personally, I have answers to all these questions because I know the questions that would likely come in an interview. For me, I would say I like, take for instance, because I'm an auditor, review working papers. I'm a manager, I have to review working papers. I like when people put their working papers in order and it's logical and all that. And I may spend time trying to put people's working paper in order before I review it. I know that is time, that is money going. So in other words, I like just making sure that things are in order, working papers are looking fine, and it is logical before I can review. Where the figures are scattered everywhere, I find it difficult to review it. It's a weakness instead because you may just, the reason why it's a weakness because you spend time on little things like the aesthetics of the working paper, making sure things are aligned and all that. And you're spending time is going, you're not doing the real thing, right? And you cannot talk about the things you are doing to correct that. Another weakness you could talk about. So I don't want to, I'm just giving myself an example. But make sure what you are saying is not one of the skills they are looking for. I mean, if you say that, man, you've cancelled yourself for it by yourself, you cancelled yourself. How do you deal with stress at work? How do you deal with stress at work? Well, there are so many things you could say here, but please be sure that what you are saying makes sense. And it's not, there are legal things you could do to deal with stress. There are sensible things you could do in a workplace, not things that are not sensible. Probably you bring out your phone and you're scrolling through Instagram, you're watching TikTok, you're watching a video on your phone. You go to YouTube and you're watching comedy. I mean, it depends on the environment. Is an environment you can say that, but in some other environment, that would be a no-no. That would be a no-no. So please be careful what you say when you answer this kind of question. Describe a time when you went above and beyond requirements for it. So these are like behavioral questions. These questions are, you normally get this question because a good colleague will be one who is a team player and who is willing to help others, and they don't just want to employ somebody who would just come and do his work. They want to employ somebody who who is also there to help people. Not that you do your work and you carry your bag and go. I have a lot I can say about this, but please, again, I don't have time. But you are somebody who can help others when there's a need for that. You work best as part of a team or individually. Now, again, this depends on the kind of work, but in most cases, I think the best answer to this is that you are a good team player. You can work effectively as a team. You like to work with people. You like to meet people. You like to be in a part of. You like to be a part of a team. But you should also say that where it requires for you to work individually, where the job requires, you can also do that very, very well. Again, it means that you're a flexible person. You're not a rigid person. That's why you say you are flexible when you're asked. That's one skill you have to sell about yourself when you're asked to introduce yourself. How would you, and I was asked this question recently, how would you, your boss or your mom describe you? I've never been asked this question before, but I was asked in an interview I did like 2 weeks ago, and I almost struggled to answer it, but the way I went about it was the feedback somebody gave me. feedback somebody gave me in the office. She said, well, I don't smile that much. It appears I'm not approachable, even if I'm a nice person, but initially it may look as if I'm not very approachable. And so down the line, the lady is married, so she got pregnant, and she sits not very far from me. So during that period of her pregnancy, before she went on maternity, I made sure that I was always asking about her. When probably she dropped something and she wants to bend, I would say she's not bend. I would do it for her. She wants to plug her lap. So I was just helping her and make sure I'm checking up on her and doing. A part of that, it wasn't really because of a part of it was because of the feedback she gave me, but a part of it was also because I felt, man, this feedback, I think it's a genuine feedback. So let me get out of my shell and probably interact more with people. And that was how I answered that question, that this is feedback I got. It again is the way people see you, and this is what you've done to correct it. And I know that she gave me on that feedback before she went on maternity leave. That's it. I really helped her through her pregnancy when she was in it, and that was good feedback. And that was how I attempted that question. So sometimes these are things that we don't really think about. We probably people have not really given us feedback, or people give us feedback, or we've not worked in an environment where people give us feedback. So you might have it as a challenge answering this question. But please, I will share these questions with us. These questions are questions you're likely to see in the interview, and it's good you have a prepared answer for this question. Don't try it is a bit challenging when you start to try to think up answers to questions during an interview. Sometimes you have to do for some questions, but I tell you, you don't have to do for questions, because there are questions that you likely encounter in an interview. What do you do to enjoy your spare time? You can read what is there. Don't say you are doing TikTok, you are doing you're browsing internet, you're scrolling through Insta. Talk about productive things. Productive. You like meeting people, you like hiking. Well, you like cycling. Talk about productive things, not you watching TV and all those kind of things. Please, quickly. I know my time is up. I think my time is up. We'll just run through the last questions and end here and take our questions. What skills do you have that would be beneficial for this role? Then, this you can talk about skills you've acquired over the years. And sometimes you may not have the skills, especially when it's an entry level, but you can always demonstrate to you or sell yourself to your interviewer. I see you are a quick learner. And one of the reasons why you're taking up this job, because you really want to get these skills and you can learn easily and very fast. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? Again, suppose somebody will say he wants to be the CEO. Do you want to displace the person that is there already? Don't be. You have to be smart when answering this kind of question. I think one good way to answer it is that, see, one of the reasons why they ask this question again is to see if you have a long-term plans for the company, right? So you have to be careful when answering these questions. One thing you could say is that, first of all, you want to settle in. Don't just jump off and start talking about where you want to be in the next 5 years. First of all, I want to settle into this company because I'm coming to a new role, and then I also want to get to know my colleagues and get to understand the business. And I believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, as I do my work properly, I will be promoted and be rewarded for the work that I have done. Right? Don't say you want to be the director, you want to be the CEO. Yeah, you can say it's better for you to say that, see, I settle in, I get to know my job very well, I do it very well, and I believe that because this company rewards good work, I will be properly rewarded. Leave it at that and move on. Simple and short. Why should we consider you for this role? Okay, again, talk about the skills, talk about the JD, talk about the skills you've acquired over the years, talk about yourself, your personality, the places you worked, the things you've done, the things you've achieved, and why you've believed that the best person, and just link it back to why you believe you're the best person for the role. What are your salary expectations? This one, sometimes you might not have an idea, but if you understand the market, the job market, the labor market where you live, you know what people earn at a particular level. So you're able to give a wide, but the golden rule here is that don't give a specific figure, give a range. Give a range. I've made these mistakes in the past and it has haunted me. Give a range. Don't say, if you don't give, I'm expecting 70K, I'm expecting 200K, I'm expecting 500K. Give a range. Because sometimes you might not be sure what they pay you. And in the culture these days is that people are paid within a band. and people at the same level are not just or everybody paid the same thing. No, people are paid within the band, and it depends on how you negotiate and the skills you are bringing. So they make sure that you are within that band, but it doesn't mean that if everybody on this particular level is supposed to earn. I mean, everybody who's an associate earning 200K. No, that's not the way it is anymore. People just earn within the particular band, and it depends on how you're able to negotiate during the interview. Do you have any question? I've talked about this at the beginning. It's always good to have a question prepared. And if you research the company properly, it's good for you to ask questions that relates to the company's growth, the things they are doing currently, or where they want to get to. Some other questions you ask is that you ask your interviewers, why have they stayed in the company for that long? What do they think are the things you need to do if you get a job to help you settle in fast and all that? So you can have your question prepared. I wouldn't want to go into this. Time is fast spent. I will share all these questions and share all other resources that will help us during interviews. I just want to take questions at this point and hear from if anybody has a question before we introduce the next speaker. Is there any questions? Contribution?
Well, in terms of contribution, I think you are spot on with the presentation, and a couple of the scenarios that you mentioned and some of the experiences you've seen are also some of the things that I've seen as well. And unfortunately, sometimes you see people that come to interviews and they don't even bother to put in the work at all.
Yeah.
So, but what people don't understand is that, there is a cost to all of these things. And it's what I tell people. There's a massive cost to getting someone, getting a CV, because it depends. You may end up getting the CV maybe from a vendor, so the recruitment cost already goes up there. Then maybe you get a bunch and then you have to test them, and they're using a vendor that has a pro software. That's going to cost you. Then you do all of those things just to get the person to an interview stage, and then you're asking the person, what do you know about us? And the person doesn't have any clue. Describe a time when you have done this, and the person is just fumbling around. So yes, it's important that in as much as we are trying to put our faith, and also try and be hardworking, we need to not miss these little steps. They sound normal, but I'm telling you that the simple things that trip people up. So anyone that is not taking notes right now it's a risk really. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. Alice, you have a question? Or has your hand been up since? Alice, do you have a question? Okay, is there any other question? Thank you, sir. Thank you again for...
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for that contribution. I mean, you are the professional. I'm not the HR professional. I'm just speaking from the experience I've had over the years, and it's good. I mean, it's good to hear that. I mean, hear from a professional that at least to corroborate some of the things I've said. Thank you very much, sir. Is there any other question before I step aside?
Hello, sir. Am I allowed to contribute, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think that thank you for the wonderful presentation, and thank you for that. What I'm also observing now is that don't you sell yourself during an interview. Now, I've also observed that it's also one opportunity for the company also to sell themselves and the fact on how they plan to add to your career. As such, it's supposed to be more like an interview session for me. I may be wrong, because it's like a bargain.
Yes, sir.
Engagement where both parties are trying to communicate the value that they have on the table, and in such a way that you can make a decision to join them, or they can make a decision to accept you, depending on how they perceive so it is not out of place for you to have that mindset. And they're always in an interview session, they will always give you an opportunity, you understand, to ask every question. I think that's an opportunity to also put the question on the table that what value exactly is the company promising, if you join the company. It's like they are also trying to sell, the company to you so that you can make a decision to join them. So I just said, yeah, it's good to add that perspective, so that we are not all just going out thinking, it's only me trying to sell myself, but the company also trying to sell.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. People, people just think that, okay, I'm going for interview, I'm going to say no. Company is also trying to say, especially if you are bringing. If you put yourself in, if you presented yourself as somebody who is bringing value to the company, they also want to sell themselves to you. And yeah, thank you, sir. Okay, if there's, thank you, sir. Yeah, can I hand over to you, sir?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me stop.
Thank you very much. Just once again, fantastic presentation, and I would personally appreciate if you could share the results as you said you would. I think it's also going to be very, very helpful, for us generally. I know that there are a couple of young people that I also come across, and I think a lot of the things that you said, they are actively good pointers, that we can use, when we are trying to educate these young people, basically, or at least people that are just starting their career. And for the house, I think it's very good that his session actually came before mine, because in as much as his is actually getting you to the point where you are at the door, and then you are trying to get interviews, or you are sitting for interviews left, right, and center. My own session is more like the things you have to do to sort of get you to the door. All right, and which is what the whole resume or CV building is all about. And if I'm yet to see someone that presents a very, very tacky CV, and people still say, let's still look at it. There might be some miraculous situations where that is actually happening, but I can assure you that there are not many times that you see those things happen. So your CV is sort of like an ambassador for you. You are sending your CV out. You really don't have any